What made the high school legend become a legend? Big Peasy said. When I was in 11th grade, a guy a year older than me, in grade 12, saved a grade 9 girl from being abducted by her estranged father in the school parking lot. Her dad hadn't been in her life for years and had previously tried to take her from her elementary school. This being her first year in high school, I guess he tried again. The 12th grader heard her scream as her dad tried to force her into his car, and he ran over and got involved, apparently punching the dad before the dad got back in his car and sped off. Guy was a legit hero at the school. Sailor Death said. Our legend was actually the gym teacher. He became a legend by getting hit by a bus, getting up, getting on the bus and asking if everyone was okay. He ended up getting fired about 5 years after I graduated because he was caught soaking raisins in vodka and then eating them over the course of the day. Never change, Mr. Leff. Sailor Death said the man would get to school early each day and do a run down the 2-mile stretch of road that the school was on. That's also where he got hit by the bus. He was an ex-Marine, so he was already a bit crazy. But the thing that surprised me the most was that he wasn't hard on fat people as long as they tried in his class and gave an effort. Hell, he'd even go out of his way to encourage those that tried to do better without denigrating them. The lazy ones, on the other hand, he had a dislike for. He was a hard-ass coach, but many looked up to him. Elysian Reverie 21 said. There was this girl Kelly who was very tiny, quiet, and seemingly well-mannered. Very unassuming girl. I don't think anyone knew who she was, big school, until she was escorted off campus by the police for stealing the credit card information of 14 students and going on a shopping spree. She disappeared for a year before somehow being allowed back in for her senior year. Instead of being a pariah, this girl somehow became a damn meme. Free Kelly posters would pop up with her mugshot on them. Her name was incorporated into chants used at football games like she was a weapon that could be used against the opposing team, and she was at the top of everyone's party invite list. Corrupt Cat said. It's pretty stupid, but a friend wore a Walmart hot dog costume and for some reason everyone thought it was funny, started chanting hot dog kid, and he won the best Halloween costume award of that year. Next year he wore a penguin costume, and as he stepped up on stage he ripped it off to reveal the hot dog costume underneath. Everybody fucking lost it. Sadly, we have a rule that you can't win 2 years in a row, so while he didn't get the prize, we all knew who had the best costume that day. That is how the legend of Hot Dog Kid was born at my high school. Edit. I have been provided a picture of the costumes by the Hot Dog Kid. Brendan the DJ said. 3 kids at my high school literally saved a baby's life by lifting up a car off of a child that got ran over and had its head pinned under the axle. The baby would have died had they not showed up. Those kids were hailed as heroes, and if I recall, Good Morning America offered to fly them to New York for interviews, but they declined. I'll see if I can find the article. Gopic49er said. Someone installed games onto the school's server. There were a bunch of N64 emulators, Pegler, and some other games. But then there were also LAN games that could be played against everyone in the school, including Counter-Strike and Halo. Sometimes you'd go on and there'd be no one, other times there'd be 10v10 fight and Blood Gulch. It lasted at least 10 years, but don't know if it has been taken down since. Edit. This blew up way more than I was expecting. For those of you asking, this happened around 2008 in California, but I'm glad this has been experienced across the world and multiple generations of gamers. Some of the games you all had on your school computers were before my time, and some were just coming out on consoles. Thank you for the gold and other awards. I hope there continues to be ways around the system so that younger generations can always have this experience. Fanina said. My brother ran into the statue of our high school mascot with his truck at night. Knocked the bulldog off its platform, then threw it in the back of the truck. It ended up in a pond out by our house. My brother, who was a massive wallflower in school, and never told a soul until he mentioned it to me over some beers in our 30s. No one ever knew who it was, but it was a big deal, and I remember tons of allegations, accusations, and rumors as to how our mascot disappeared. Never in my life would I have ever suspected my brother. Legendary in my eyes. Repulsive at 8369 said. In 9th grade, one of our teachers got sick, so we got a sub. And this kid just starts talking in a strong Spaniard accent, like super well, and convinces the teacher he is from Spain. and he talks this way for 3 months. It was hilarious. And when another kid tried talking as a Spaniard too, he got really upset and accused the other kid of mocking his culture, etc. Then when the year ended, we had to do a presentation and our teacher who got sick came. So the kid just nodded through the whole presentation while his group mates talked. It was hilarious. FineGent 1820 said, "This guy didn't become a high school legend until the last 10 minutes of our last day at school. I went to school with this kid for 5 years who, throughout all of high school, was bullied for the way he looked, considered a teacher's pet, generally unpopular with most of the school, etc. No one knew much about him at all, apart from the reasons he was, unfortunately, bullied and ostracized so hard. On the last day of our final year at high school, we had a leavers ceremony where teachers gave speeches, students were given awards, etc. Typical painstaking sit down for 2 hours while you watch all the accomplished sports kids drown in trophies ceremony. Out of nowhere, the principal introduced a performance from this kid, the notorious unpopular teacher's pet. We were all so confused. What could he possibly be performing? He got up on our school's theater stage as if he were to do a stand-up special. He then proceeded to perform a 10-minute-long Adult Swim-style sketch in which he did spot-on impressions of not only every single teacher in the school, in front of them, but the exam invigilators, the cleaners, and even the fucking dinner ladies. This guy had fully produced and scripted an entire one-man sketch where he played all the characters being every member of staff in the school, for the very last time we would all be in that hall together. It was truly an everybody clapped moment as he got a standing ovation from every teacher in the hall, and all 120 students who relentlessly bullied him all these years prior. It felt like a massive middle finger to everyone who underestimated and ignored him. This mystery kid, who'd been bullied and ignored for his entire 5 years at our high school, became a legend within 10 minutes on the very last hour of the very last day of our time in that place, and then I never saw him again. Wonder where he is now." Lucifer94 said, "When I was a freshman, there was a senior on the last week of school who thought it would be legendary to streak on campus. He was 18. He was unable to receive his diploma on stage and had to register as a sex offender. Go Wildcats. Edit. Thanks guys, for the upvotes and the awards. To add to this, I agree that his punishment was harsher than what seems fair. Taking away his ability to walk on stage in addition row community service would have been better. And in regards to where this occurred, this was in a suburban high school in Santa Clarita, north of Los Angeles." Kylie Bug said, "Long story short, jerk of a substitute wouldn't let a heavily pregnant girl use the restroom, and she had to go to the nurse then the doctors afterwards, enraging entire graduating class of the girl. Substitute quits after 3 weeks of open season on him with him giving this speech of how we're all ungrateful and how we've made him regret ever wanting to be a teacher. According to my little brother, who is currently at that school, it's still talked about because the faculty put in a rule that a teacher cannot prevent a pregnant student from going to the restroom." Big Blitz said, "I'm late to this thread and this comment reminded me of the time we had a strict teacher, we'll call him Mr. B, who was very stingy about when he would allow kids to use the restroom. To be fair, he reminds everyone almost weekly that he would much rather people be late to his class than to interrupt his lesson to leave to the restroom. Made it clear that if you can't go use the restroom before his class starts, then you can wait until his lesson is at least finished. One kid must not have gotten the memo and asked to use the restroom mid-lesson and immediately got shut down. Mr. B then goes on about how he hates reminding everyone the rules about restrooms he repeats weekly. Mid-tangent the kid just gets up and leaves. I remember Mr. B yelling, 'Where do you think you are going?' as the kid was walking out. Kid just yells 'bathroom' and kept walking lol. Last I heard he never got in trouble or anything. Mr. B pulled him aside later after class, probably just to remind him of the restroom rules he has in his class. So no, most teachers aren't going to physically stop you, and I'm pretty sure you can't get in trouble for needing to use the restroom even when denied permission." F. River said, "Our history teacher was ex-military, and he was absolutely jacked. Like this guy would buy 10 miles every morning to school, kept an arm roller in his classroom, would eat salads and beans for lunch every day, the whole shebang. Anyway, one day he gives our class a pop quiz. Jeff, the strongest, biggest guy in my class, goes up to him and asks, 'If I can punch you in the stomach, and make you flinch, The entire class gets a 100 on the quiz. My teacher took him up on it. He prepared himself, and Jeff absolutely drills him in the stomach. Our teacher did not flinch. We still had to take the quiz, but Jeff went down in history as the guy who punched a teacher, and the teacher went down in history as a guy you don't want to fucking mess with. Theo North Swain said, Year 10, head boy has to be picked, England. And it's picked by vote. It's a year group of about 150 students. So we had the obvious, popular, well-liked by everyone kids. We had the popular lads, the football captain and the sophisticated, obvious choice. Me and my little posse of in-betweeners, I suggest fuck that. We pick one guy from the Forgotten Kids Club, let's call him Carl. This guy's pretty below average grades, not a lick of athletic ability in his social abilities. Well, he's part of a group of kids that stays behind and spends lunch in the teacher's class because he got bullied so bad on the schoolyard. Carl found himself named head boy to his absolute shock due to the minority being united and the knobheads all split and vying for position. He was a good dude as well, really committed himself to it. His grades improved, he became a better speaker, the lad glowed up considerably, and by the end of year 11 we had a whole army of people carrying him down the street for the final end of exams celebration. We would just sing his praises despite not knowing him that well, and it just caught on. Dick move, I know, but we did genuinely like him and thought it would be good for him. I like to take credit for suggesting the whole movement, but really it was just a testament to how one downtrodden dude can rise to the occasion and became an absolute fucking ambassador for an entire school. He won over everyone, dude was impossible to hate. Kunderthan said, when I was a junior in HS, the wrestling team would hang out in the bathroom at lunch and pack lips in the stalls. There was a kid who was probably on the spectrum who'd also hang in the bathroom every day and eat his lunch there, so we befriended him and tried to give him some banter. I went to a midnight screening of Superbad, and the first time McLovin came on the screen I was like, my god, that looks just like a slightly skinnier version of Stall Kid. So the next day at school I saw him in the hall, and during our usual daps I was like, it's McLovin. That caught on, and for the rest of his time in high school everyone called him McLovin. He liked it, then he was voted prom king as a senior. Hope you're well, McLovin. Chaotic Forking Good said, we had a teacher who was infamous for not letting you go to the bathroom no matter what. I mean, so much so that if you accidentally started your period in class, she'd make you wait. This happened. So there was a girl who we'll call Katie in class, who tended to be a bit of a troublemaker. Katie hated that teacher, because she begged to go to the bathroom and got shut down every time. At the end of the year, Katie asked one more time to go to the bathroom. The teacher said no. Katie asked another time 5 minutes later. The teacher said no again. 5 minutes after that, Katie asked again, but said that the teacher was not going to like what happened if the teacher didn't let her go. The teacher hit the roof and said that if she said one more thing, Katie would be sent to the principal. Katie shrugged and said, this is on you, then, and pissed on her seat, right where she was. The teacher sent her to the principal, who called her parents, one of which was a urologist. Her father yelled at the principal. The teacher ended up in deep shit. According to other kids, she never denied another kid the bathroom again. Katie was a fucking legend. Sweet Potato Free said, similar to this, one time there was this teacher who wouldn't allow students to use the bathroom. No exceptions. You could be on the verge of exploding and he didn't care. So one time a girl was on her period and she needed to go to the bathroom ASAP. He wouldn't let her leave and just claimed, you can hold it in, and, this class is more important. So this kid reached into her pants, pulled out a bloody tampon, and walks across the room and threw it in the trash. She then opened her backpack, pulled out a fresh tampon, and reached her hand into her pants again. When I say this teacher was red in the face, I'm not kidding. He looked like a tomato. The best part? It was health class. Faith Scott Fang said, I will never understand why teachers in schools behave this way towards girls. I started my period unexpectedly at school one day and wound up leaking. Being 17 with a vehicle, I decided to run home and change rather than wear jeans with a blood stain. Assistant principal stopped me at the gate and demanded a pass. I didn't have one, because wearing bloody pants to the office to call my mother, who was busy at work and would be pissed if bothered for trivial shit, which the solution was obvious. Run home, shower, change pants, return seemed idiotic. Assistant principal pulls the good old power trip and demands to call my mother because I'm skipping lunch, for the record, and calls her. I explained the situation to my mother in a single sentence. She is pissed she got bothered in the middle of some legal proceeding, worked for attorney, because my assistant principal has an issue with me driving 5 minutes away for fresh pants. She proceeded to scream at the assistant principal that I was damn near 18, had a car and was fully capable of deciding whether or not I needed to change my F-King pants without his input. He never called my mother again. I went home and changed. Future Nurse 19 said, I had a teacher in middle school who refused to let you go to the bathroom during class, would say you should be able to go during passing period. 3 minutes in his class was across the school from everyone in the basement. Most girls tried to argue with him that a bathroom trip takes about 3 minutes already, let alone walking to bathroom and then to classroom. Finally one guy asked, got told no, and purposefully beat himself, because really, how has he not had other 11-13-year-old boys willing to do so to prove their point? After that you bet he started allowing kids to go, not sure if the teacher got in trouble or not, but he at least learned his lesson. The worst part is there was a bathroom was literally right down the hall from his room, so he could have even stood in the door watching the student to make sure they went to bathroom and back. Lisa Hanayao said, religious school. Until the principal's niece, 2 years older than me, got pregnant her senior year, the school had a rule that they would expel pregnant students. After that, they changed it to pregnant students are not allowed to walk for graduation if they are showing, but they are no longer expelled. A girl my class got pregnant her senior year and was not showing 2 weeks before graduation, when the school had to decide if she was allowed to walk. She did not look pregnant then, but then popped in those 2 weeks and looked super pregnant at graduation. But they had already said she could walk, so she got to participate. Meet the Meat said, this guy never lost a wrestling match. Ever. Local, state, national champ as a sophomore. He was amazing. My high school had about 220 total students in the middle of fucking nowhere, Oregon, and this 98 pounds ball of muscle and hustle was getting TV crews to come out and film us practicing and shit. Edit. Wanted to add he was really cool guy and earned everything he got with the work he put in. Not a lot of guys I can say earned my respect in high school, but he certainly did. Aldrupal said, got a couple that are somewhat related. 10th grade Spanish. We had this teacher who was a bit strict and didn't have much of a tolerance for nonsense in class, but her punishments didn't have much teeth, so naturally the class would collectively see how much we could get away with. Story 1, potato chips in Spanish is papas fritas. Someone decided to start saying papa chodes instead, pronounced chodes. She would say no, that's not it. But we told her that a substitute teacher we had one time, who was a native Spanish speaker, told us that in some dialects it's papa chodes. And she bought it. Also we could sneak the word chodes into stuff and write it on the board. It even went so far that unsuspecting students in the class used it on the state test. Pretty sure it continued in subsequent years. Story 2, same class, we had a project where we had to invent a product and film a commercial for it with a Spanish script. This was a partner project, and my partner told me he wanted to make a shampoo bottle that was shaped like a large penis. We called it El Palo Divertido, the fun stick. He went home and made the thing out of paper mache. He sent me a picture and I got scared because this thing was not subtle at all. I was so sure we'd get in trouble. We brought it to class the next day. Our teacher looked at it, held it, and I swear to you practically fondled it. We were nervously holding our breath. And she said, great, now work on your script. Somehow we flew under her radar. Aldrupal said, a class meeting or two later, we all took turns filming our commercials in class. Our routine involved numerous phallic gestures with this miraculous versatile penis-shaped shampoo bottle. You can get the shampoo out by stroking the shaft, jerk it off. You can use it as lip balm, rub the tip on your lips, stick your tongue out a little. You can clean your ears with it, dick an ear. We were being so obvious with this thing, the class was cracking up the whole time, and somehow we didn't get in trouble. The teacher thought it was all very well prepared. We got a really good grade on the project, and she even showed the video to other class sections and to other classes in subsequent years as a good example of how to do this project. Ooh, he said. I was on one of those televised quiz shows on a local small market station. The host was this bearded guy, who would sport a cowboy hat and a suede jacket with the leather patches. Pure class. The question was: the state of Kentucky was recently overtaken by Nevada as the national leader of this dubious habit. No one buzzed, so at the last second I went in and said interfamily relationships, like incest. The host just turned bright red and was like, "Oh. I got yelled at a little bit off stage, but when I got back to school I was a made man. And hey, people watch public TV." Gary the Taco said. Steve Harvey, we asked 100 people, what is the Malay reproductive organ? Contestant, the penis. SH, AWU. Yeah. Audience erupts into laughter. Steve Harvey grabs onto podium to support himself. Laughter gets even louder. SH, oh lordy. One man goes into cardiac arrest and many others begin vomiting profusely from laughing too hard. SH, you people need help. The earth shatters and Satan rises from the underworld to claim unworthy souls. The universe begins rapidly closing in on itself. SH, putting on a weary voice, survey says. The board shows 100 for penis. Harvey is able to get off one more shocked look before existence as we know it comes to an end. Spirited Tiger 7430 said. The senior class was gathered in the gym for a pep rally type event, but there weren't any planned events, so we students were getting bored and restless. In an effort to engage us, teachers offered to let kids tell jokes into the microphone. The very first guy that goes to the microphone triumphantly asks, "How deep are we gonna go, men?" And every Malays the stands shouted back, "Balls deep." How deep? Balls deep. The call and response quickly ended when the teacher swarmed him and took away the microphone. Jokes were over for the day. Later in the year they hold another senior event in the gym, but instead of jokes they let kids sing karaoke. Fun. Until the microphone goes missing between songs. Everyone is seated in the stands when that same guy stands up just laughing his ass off because someone handed him the microphone. The teachers say, "Don't." And he just keeps laughing. He manages to ask a single question into the microphone. How deep? For the first time I understood school pride as 900 students, even the girls, joined in shouting balls deep. Legend. Chaotic Forking Good said. I almost forgot, I have another one. Our AP English teacher went out on maternity leave, and we got a sub who did not give a single shit. We were studying Romeo and Juliet, and she just decided to throw on the 1968 Zeffirelli film version. She just brought out a book and started reading. Well, she didn't think that out too well, because Juliet gets topless in that one. Some little shit said, "Mom, I didn't get that scene, could we rewind it?" She barely looked up. Totally missed the boobs. 5 whole students pulled this, including a girl, before she noticed. Those 5 were gods in the school for a little bit. Sans the Romanian said. Not a school legend for doing something cool, but a school legend for his stupidity. Dumbass classmate of mine locked himself in the classroom with the backpacks of others trying to be funny. He had his backpack on his back and standing on the ledge of the window. He fell off. We were at the ground floor, but there was still about a 2-meter fall to the ground since the school is a bit elevated. Even today, 3 years since it happened, I still go past the school and hear, "Look, this is where the kid fell out the window." TBH, dude was an asshole, so he kinda deserved 2 weeks in the hospital. Rumber said. Not my story, but my friend's. My buddy went to a military boarding school for high school. Very strict and regimented, with little to no tolerance for misbehavior. Multiple years of this environment must have pushed someone off the deep end, because during my buddy's second year, someone started shitting in urinals. Big, sloppy, shameless turkeys. At least once a month for 3 years, these turds would appear. The culprit became known as the Phantom Shitter, and despite the efforts of a task force specifically assembled to put an end to the nefarious poops, the Phantom Shitter was never captured. This person became a legend at this boarding school because of their stealth, conviction, and utter lack of shame. My buddy kept in touch with one of his instructors over the years, and found out years later that a copycat shitter had briefly popped up, but he was discovered and expelled after only a couple dookies. He lacked the finesse of the mysterious original. 1234 Tempcore said. One of my friends throughout school was our punk guy. He always wore camo clothing, a jean vest, chains, military boots, and had spiked hair that Wayne Static would approve of. Most people saw my friend as just this weirdo but knew not to screw with him. He was actually a really cool dude and he got me hooked on Pink Floyd and Zeppelin early on. One day in high school, the staff arranged a fun fling or whatever the hell they called it. It was basically a few amusement park attractions like the arcade skill booths and a rock wall climbing tower. The tower had 3 sides each with their own tether, must have been 40-50 feet tall. Most kids couldn't make it halfway up. My friend went over and started climbing before the attendant could get him fitted with the harness. He was about 10 feet up, staff were yelling at him. He yelled back, "What's that? You want me to try it only using my arms?" Wilford Brimley voice, and ladies and gentlemen, that is exactly how it happened. He managed to get himself to the friggin' top of this climbing wall only using his arms, no harness, and then proceeded to sit at the top taunting everyone, before every Redditor throws a fit like they always do. Yeah, I'm sure he used a foot here and there to stabilize, but he was doing the vast majority of the work with his hands. They called the fire department to come get him down. He got suspended and didn't really care. That was around 20 years ago now. Podacity 2 said, there was this one sophomore who had a goose for a pet. He lived kinda close so he could walk to school, and he'd always let his goose walk with him. We all called him Goose, and he was a really nice guy to hang with. Even the teachers liked petting his goose. One time he was at school when one of the teachers who wasn't chill with his pet came out and started yelling at him about the goose, and he got a detention somehow. The next day, the same teacher wasn't in class and we all knew what happened to her. We find out at a small assembly at the end of the day that Goose had let his goose run around the classroom last night, and apparently the teacher was still there grading, and got a beat to the head. No one messed with him for the rest of school year. Giant Roth said, there was this one kid in my grade who got expelled for a year. One day in Spanish class, he and his class went down the hall to another room for a quiz. Once they were done, they started to make their way down the hall back to their classroom. This kid and his friend were the last 2 in the line. The kid in question gets back to the classroom first while the other lags behind. Now, the movie Waiting just came out and he has seen it. He decides this is the absolute perfect time and place to pull the goat on his buddy, that is bending over and tucking your balls behind your legs so your ass and balls are in plain view and tricking your friend into seeing it. He walks faster than his bud to get to the classroom before him, and in front of everybody else who are still getting seated, pulls down his pants and sets himself up for the prank. Unbeknownst to him, his buddy thinks, oh shit, I forgot my homework in my locker. I'm already in the hallway so I might as well U-turn and get it while I'm here. Since the teacher had to stay behind to lock up after the students left the spare room, she was behind his buddy. So here comes a super religious woman in her 60s, takes one step into the room and sees the goods this kid is sporting right in front of the rest of the classroom. He eventually came back the year after that, so I don't know what kind of arrangement could have possibly been made to make that happen. Jock 163 said, not school legends but rather became known as school dickheads. A couple of kids decided one night to enter the school and kill all the chickens and fucked with one of the cows. An actual school legend was a guy who got access to a teacher's laptop and managed to copy all the answers for the final math tests for all the kids in their last year of high school. Unfortunately, his efforts were in vain as another student told the teachers about this and the kid got expelled. He did end up landing a job at Java last I heard though.